blood. That's where nanotechnology comes in. We need, and we expect to get, the ability to detect just a single protein in that cc of blood with great confidence, and detect if there are 2 or 3 or 1,000 or 100,000, and do this in a way that is not confused by the presence of all the other gamish that's in that blood sample. So that's outside the body. It's really analytical chemistry, but it sounds doable to us, and it would have a huge effect on not only on cancer but on heart disease, and virtually every other of the great diseases that are the scourge of humankind. But also inside the body, new entities that that are small enough to go through wherever the blood goes, down to the smallest capillaries, to move out from those capillaries into the cells that surround those little blood vessels, to sense whether or not those cells are cancerous, to stick to them, and then allow you to detect that from outside the body in a non-invasive way. That, oh yeah, you got a little concentration of those things there. It's a little better than it was before, but it's still there. And in many cases, we think we can then use these new nano things that are on the surface of the cells to actually treat the cell, right there, by irradiation with near-infrared light or some other electromagnetic radiation, perhaps triggering some toxin to go locally into that cell. So what we're looking for are new gadgets to bring to the table of the diagnosis and treatment of disease. They're nanometer scale objects, generally of molecular perfection. But they come from what we call the dry side of nanotechnology, not generally made by enzymes and ordinary reactions in the general metabolism of living cells, but objects that we make, for example, Bucky tubes at thousands of degrees centigrade in the gas phase in a very non-biological environment. Bring these objects from the dry side of nanotechnology to the battleground between human beings and these diseases.
That sounds like a message of hope.
Oh yes, well I've always been very much of an optimist. Most scientists are, for that matter. Most successful businessmen are, and successful politicians. You got to be optimistic if you're going to get through a really complicated, long task and come through the other end, because there's all sorts of ways of losing heart. If you're looking for a way to fail, there's plenty of ways to do that. I've been in science as an active participant for about 40 years now, and I have been blessed to see just stunning discoveries come. I mean, I was around when the first lasers were used in spectroscopy. Right now I'm staring at a camera that has light-emitting diodes that's blinding me. That come from a quantum restricted form of electrons between strained superlattice layers. Is very stunning technology that back in the 60s we never could have imagined. Technology and science have been developing at such a tremendous pace, even since I've been a scientist for 40 years. If that pace, even if it continues at the rate on average that it's been for the past 40 years, it's hard to imagine that we will have still no good answer to diseases like the cancer that I have, and breast cancer and heart disease. We are so close to doing these things. So I suspect that it will happen. That ours, at least my generation, may be the last one to die in the way that people have died over the years with cancer. Probably by the end of 10, maybe 20 years, cancer will be a condition that you live with. In many cases, you can find ways of just curing it and make it go away. In other cases, you learn how to keep it under control. And that's going to have a huge effect on humanity. These comments about cancer, I think, extend beyond that to pretty much every medical condition. You know, heart disease is the big killer, and it has the nasty aspect that the first time you know you have a heart disease is when you have a heart attack, and half those people just die right there. So you don't have any notion that you're going to get it, and yet this is the big killer on average for human beings. I think we can get non-invasive probes that tell you well before any such event happens that you're in danger, and then probes that tell you as you're beginning to modify your body chemistry such that those conditions will go away. This is a fascinating time. We know so much more now than we knew even 20 years ago about how the machinery of living cells works and the association of cells in multicellular organisms. It's very likely within a couple decades we're really in a whole new world.
How does it feel to you now to be doing that work upon which the future of medicine and really all of mankind's future will be based?
Well, I think that's probably an over-aggrandized statement of what I'm working on. You know, I'm just a simple chemist in Texas, and all I do is work with Bucky tubes. You know, which, as you can tell from my remarks, I'm just terribly obsessed and fascinated with these tubular forms of carbon. And so I try to keep my attention quite focused on that. But because because of my cancer, I spend like half of my time over at MD Anderson for one reason or another there. And talking with people, I know of a much broader set of issues now. So it's really intellectually quite fascinating for me. But I'm just one player in a very large game here that will go on almost certainly for the next 2 or 3 or 4 decades as this incredible event happens in the history of humanity, that the big scourges, the diseases that kill young children and adults in their prime are by and large brought under control. What a stunning time to be alive.
Any closing thoughts?
Well, let me just insert, I want to express my appreciation for receiving this award. I'm not sure that I deserve it, but it's flattering. I wish that I was able to be at the award ceremony. Probably by the time that award ceremony is going on, I will be behind closed doors at MD Anderson in the midst of a bone marrow transplant. So that's why we're taping this in advance. But I want to voice my appreciation for the award, for the Ferrari family, and for the good things that you're doing to promote the cure of cancer.
Thank you very much, and we wish you the speediest recovery and the best of luck in your fight against your own malignancy.
Thank you.